So on the North America video, this was something that I announced that I was working on in like September of 2020, I think. It may have been a little bit before that, but it was like end of summer, early fall of 2020. Um, because I already have a video on the history of North America every year, but I just it could be way better, and so I was going to work on a newer one with you know with not only like corrected information but also more information, because as you can see in this one, I am including to the best of my ability all of the various Native American entities. So like I'll zoom in a little bit so you can kind of, so like I've got, some of the more I don't know if you'd say, like, some are nomadic, but I guess it's not quite the right word. The difference between like decentralized Native American tribal communities versus the more like tribal confederations, or the more centralized Native American groups. So like the Ocheti Sakowin, which is more commonly referred to as the Sioux, but they don't really like that name. And I might as well call the nation by its proper name if I'm aware of it. But so like that would be like more of like a tribal confederation that shows up as kind of like a entity on the map. And then you've also got like the Cherokee, which at this time are very centralized with their own like towns and government systems and so forth. And then you've got the other Native American groups over here that are much more decentralized, but they're still there. Because like on my old North America video, this was all just like blank. I showed like like the Aztecs, and like I did show the Haudenosaunee, or the Iroquois, but that was basically it. So this is going to have like a lot more detail, um, and it's definitely a reason why I wanted to make a new one. Also, I'm trying this weird angle on the map where north is not facing up. Oh no, some people find it weird, but I think like North America is kind of this like continental shape where it's not like Europe or Asia, where it's very naturally rectangular, to where like the long side goes like west to east, because it's kind of like a taller continent, so to speak, on the map. I feel like if I were having north pointed north, then I wouldn't be able to quite fill up the screen as much. So that's why it's kind of at this angle, so it could like stretch out a little bit more, because at the end of the day, the more pixels I can fit of North America, the more details I can add. Because even despite this, because this is almost 7,500 pixels wide, which is normally pretty large for a video of mine, but even then there are some videos, or there are some details that I just can't show. So like in here, you'll notice this little thing right here. This is the Nanticoke Reservation in colonial Delaware. Um, it I There's just no way for me to like have a readable, or like a legible label, just because it's super crowded with all these other labels and borders. And so even then, like even despite this vast expansion of detail compared to my previous video, um I can't show everything, and that it's frustrating. But at the very least, it's showing way more than last time. So part of the reason why this is taking so long is because now that I am including Native American entities in more detail, I don't necessarily have like past works of mine that I can reference. I don't like a lot of the atlases I have don't have as much information on Native American groups, and like even like other channels that make map videos like mine very rarely focus or have any videos on Native American tribes. There are some, but not very many. So a lot of this is just, fresh research, so to speak. And I've had to make various like Word documents of like timelines and everything. And, it's a lot to learn because, all of these, because like all of these Native American entities, whether it's a tribe or a more centralized state, just like the ones in Europe or Asia, they don't always stay in the same place, as you can imagine. And, they will expand, they will decline, and they will migrate. Um, I think, like, a good example is, like, if you go to, like, European history, you had the tribes in Germany and like the Eurasian steppes that would invade the Roman Empire, Persia, and China, but uh, you know, those weren't always the same tribes attacking, and they weren't always in the same place, because like the Huns moved from Central Asia to Europe, and then that caused like a bunch of other tribes to invade Rome, and everything moved around. I mean, similar things, of course, happen in North America all the time. So some of these tribes are going to be moving around, and so I'm going to have to look up the history of a lot of these individual tribes and make a general timeline of that. An example will that I'll have to deal with soon will be the Beaver Wars. When the Haudenosaunee or the Iroquois expanded westward over, basically, for to make a complicated story short, the Europeans were making fur a very valuable trade, and the economy of the Great Lakes area started to grow dependent on that. And the Iroquois used their resources and their armies to essentially conquer, or at the very least subjugate, a lot of the area around the Great Lakes. And so that caused, kind of like the Huns arriving in Europe, that caused this like mass migration of a lot of tribes moving west. So the what is incorrectly referred to as the Sioux and the Cheyenne and the Arapaho, and I think the Osage too, but I don't remember. And a lot of these Great Plains tribes actually started. Oh, and the Niitsitapi, also known as the Blackfoot. Um, all of these like Great Plains tribes started around the Great Lakes, and then by like the mid 1600s, they had moved all the way to the plains. And so, that's a lot of important information that I've had to make a timeline of, on which each individual tribe moved. And then of course sometimes the information isn't fully available, because unfortunately some of these tribes may have been, may have, basically gone extinct, or their records were destroyed, or or maybe they kept their records orally, which normally isn't that much of a problem, but the activities of like American and European expansion disrupted that process, and so the oral tradition was lost. Um, or sometimes there's even the occasional tribe that will still have their historical records, whether it's oral tradition or not, but they kind of are secretive about it, and it's kind of like this cultural thing. But either way, that's a bunch of various reasons where it's a bunch of various reasons why some tribes I may not be able to find information on, and so I have to do like a general guess, like they probably moved in like this decade or something, and I'll just kind of have to I'll just have to work with that. So I've been having to gather a lot of information, because I want this video to, even if it won't be 1,000% perfect, because that's impossible, I want it to be more perfect than it already is. Or sorry, more perfect than like the other video was. So the more details, the better. And similarly, I am also learning as I work on the video. So there have been several times where I will have finished a part of the video, and then later on I'll discover new information, realize I made a mistake, so I have to go back and edit the slides that I've already worked on, which is annoying, but it needs to be done. Um, and so that also impedes my progress because I want it to be as accurate as I can get it. Um, to answer, oh, hold on a second. Anyway, sorry about that. To answer like how far along I am, uh, this is the slide for the year 1765, basically at the end of the French and Indian Wars, or the 7 Years' War, and basically, I actually for this video work backwards. So I haven't even gotten two. I've gotten a little over 250 slides done, which doesn't sound like a lot, but there is so much activity that's that's been done in North America after 1765 that just simply took a long time to get through, because once I work backwards from 2021, um, once you get through like American expansion and all that stuff, it's just a lot of detail, and it'll be a lot easier to do the further backwards I go. But everything past the French and Indian Wars is just a lot of detail, and so it's basically the brunt of the work, so to speak. Um, so since I'm working backwards, I still have a lot to go, but at the same time, I've also gotten a lot of very tedious and important events of North America done. And plus, I'll have to take time to see if I can find information about Native American tribes in what we would refer to as the medieval times, or Mesoamerican tribes, as Spain is no longer in the picture the further back I go. All that stuff. So then there's, of course, the fact that I love YouTube, and YouTube has been a blessing for me in many ways, but it's not my only job. I also have a part-time job, and then I also for a while was going to university. I finished my bachelor's degree in last year, but I also briefly tried to do the master's program, and for a bunch of complicated reasons I really don't want to get into right now, I basically changed my mind, and so I'm not doing the master's program anymore. But while I was in the master's program, that took up a lot of time. So when you're juggling this, a second job, a school, and the fact that I'm a normal guy. I have family relationships and things like that to deal with, and so progress just basically got really slow. Especially because, like, on this channel, I don't always have a video every week, but I try to get a video every week. And if every week that I don't have a video like this done, well, I gotta have something. And so then I'll get to working on whatever video needs to be done this week, and then by the time I get it done, it's like, oh, now I've got this for school, and then now I've got to do this for my other job, and things like that. And so in a way, the fact that I am now not in the graduate program anymore is good, because it'll give me more free time to work on this. So that means production will speed up. But in spite of that, of course, I don't know when this will be done. I originally said a few months ago, oh, I'll have this done in like March, and here we are. It's already almost the end of March. So either way, so I just wanted to like especially do this stream just so everyone knows I'm still working on this. I haven't forgotten about it, and it's taken a while because I really want to take this project seriously. Um, I'll try to like show like another example of like what it looks like. If I see, I'll go with Okay, let's hope this shows up on stream all right. So like this is what it looks like in 1865, for example. Um, so the American Civil War has just ended, and so that's under U.S. military occupation. And then you've got the French invasion of Mexico, um, and all this stuff. But if you look, you can see how you can see what a complicated mess this all is, because these are like reservation borders, and this is at a time in which a lot of these defined boundaries are treaties limiting Native American lands rather than the modern reservation system that we have today, which is why most of these are shown with superimposed borders like that, and some aren't even like subjugated like these down here are. Um, and luckily, you can find basically government treaties on whenever they forced Native Americans off of a certain area of land, or they bought it, or whatever the case was. And so I was able to find all this information, but it was still a lot of tedious details that took a while. So you can just kind of see how insane this is going to look. Um, you'll and then of course you'll notice that like despite all the tribal areas over here, I still have these borders for like state and territory lines, and because I want to show those too, and I wanted to find a way to like show both the European and American claims on land as well as the tribal ones. So I I showed the map to where like the tribe owns the land, and then if a European or an American or Canadian entity claims the land, I just show like the border and like a little highlighted color band along the border to indicate the claim, especially if the claim is taken seriously by the country. But at the same time, they haven't sent troops into here yet. They haven't, enforced their claim or signed a treaty with the tribe that already settles there. So that's why it doesn't show it under full control. So going back to 1765, you can see that I show basically similar things for European claims. So, like in the southwest over here, you've got the Spanish claim going up to this area up here, covering what's now a lot of the modern day American Southwest. But, this is the border of um, enforced settlement, so to speak, and military control, which is why you got some around the Pueblos over here. But otherwise, it's basic. Other than that, it's basically this line along here is the limit of their and military expansion at this time. And similarly, you can see down here, you can see what is that line of 1763 or whatever. Oh, that's my cat. You can see the line of 1763 that limited colonial expansion that was drawn right here. But at the same time, there are some lands that the Cherokee still possessed, or in this case, the Creek or the Muskogee down here. And so it's a very complicated mess, as you can see. So it's a lot of things that are gonna take a while to go through, but I'm still working on it.